Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, then welcome to the B family, and if you're not new, then welcome back. My name is Arya, and today I will be talking about all of the books that I read in 2020. So in 2020, I read 71 books, and that is insane to me because I have never read that much in my entire life of reading, which isn't that long, but still 71 books. It's crazy. And granted, I did read some poetry and some graphic novels, but still, I did read more than I've ever read before. And I do have the lockdowns to thank for that. So at least one good thing came out of them for me personally, not speaking for anyone else. I will not be getting into synopses and explanation for every single book because if I do that, then we will be here until tomorrow. And I don't think anyone wants to be here until tomorrow. And I'll just name the book. If I have anything to say, I will say it. If not, then moving on to the next book. And at the end of the video, I'll just talk a bit about my Goodreads stats and a bit about my 2021 bookish resolutions. There aren't many, but there's a couple, and I thought, why not mention them in this video? So with that out of the way, let's get started. So the first two books that I finished in 2020 are Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare and Dracula by Bram Stoker. These are the only two books that I carried from 2019 because I did not manage to finish them, and so I read the vast majority of them in 2020, so I just decided to add them to 2020. Next up, I read Shadow and Flame by Mindy Arnett. This is the conclusion to like the Onyx and Ivory duology, which I loved. These books do not get nearly enough hype, so please, more people read them. And then The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. This one I really loved. It's a very cute romance story. And then another cute romance story, well, smutty cute romance story that I read is Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. This one I did not own a copy of, sadly. Then I read The Sisters Grimm by Mena van Praag. Probably butchered that. I'm very sorry. This is a very lyrical story, which I did enjoy. Then I have Persepolis by Marianne Satrapi. I very much recommend this one. This is a very informative and interesting and really good graphic novel. Then I read Knots and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. I really need to continue with this series, but I'm very deep into the Throne of Glass world. Then I read Beth O'Leary's second book, The Switch. This one I absolutely adored, and I'm frankly so pumped for her next book. I cannot wait. Next up, I read the entirety of the Saga graphic novel series. So we have Saga Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5, Volume 6, Volume 7, Volume 8, and the last one and the most heartbreaking, Volume 9. I gave almost all of them 5 stars, and I don't know which one's my favorite because they're all just like one thing in my head, and it was great. If you have not read Saga, please read it because fantastic, and I need more. After that, I read Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin, and I absolutely loved it. Oh my god, such a great book. And then I read not such a great book, and that is The Female Persuasion by Meg Woliter. The reason I didn't like it is because it's very like white feminism. It's not very inclusive, and so kind of a womp. Next up, I read this tiny poetry book, and this is #Girlhood by Kat Hepburn. This is locally published, and I don't know how you can acquire this, but I will try and link it down below if you're interested in supporting local Glaswegian poets. And then I read a very steamy graphic novel, and that is Sunstone Volume 1 by Stephan Sejic. Sorry if I'm not saying that right, but very much looking forward to continuing with this at some point. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen. Then I read To Heaven to Hoax by Martha Waters. This is like a Regency romance, and I think it was my first Regency romance, and it wasn't bad. I did enjoy it. And after that, I read The Deathless Girls by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. This is like a Dracula retelling, but focusing on Dracula's wives. It wasn't too bad. It was pretty cool, and I do love the cover. And then I finally started reading Throne of Glass, and I read Throne of Glass, and then I read Crown of Midnight, and I was blown away by that plot twist, so I needed to take a break, and so I read another one of these like locally published poetry books, and this is #Hypocrisy by Imogen Sterling, which I did very much enjoy. And after that, I read Assassin's Blade, and I forgot to mention the author, but everyone already knows the author, and everyone already knows that Throne of Glass was written by Sarah J. Maas. Who doesn't know Sarah J. Maas? So, Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. After that, I took a long break from the Throne of Glass series, and I read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. The audiobook for this is fantastic, and this made me cry a little bit, which happens like once in a millennia, so really good. And then I was in the mood for some vampires, and so I read The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. It was quite good. And after that, I read Birthday by Meredith Russo. This one I read in like the span of 24 hours, which again, almost never happens. I do not read that fast. And this features a trans main character, which love that. More trans main characters, please, which we are getting a lot of in 2021, so that is fantastic. Next up, I read some more poetry, and so I read The Princess Saves Herself in this one, and The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one, both by Amanda Lovelace. Very good, but not the best poetry I ever read. Not my kind of poetry, but like still really good. And also a lot of trigger warnings for this one. Next up, I read an amazing book. Please, everyone read this one. And the book I'm talking about is Kim Ji-young, Born 1982 by Cho Nam-ju. Seriously, read this. Next up, I read Meat Market by Juno Dawson. This was just okay. And then I read, spoiler alert, one of my favorite books of the year, and that is Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury. Melinda Salisbury is one of my favorite authors, and I cannot wait until she comes out with more books because I've read everything she has and I need more. So really recommend this. If you do want to read this, go into it blindly. And I also forgot to include a book because classic. That book is Learn My Lesson by Katie Robert. This is like a male female romance, and it is very smutty, like very smutty. Next up, I read Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashar-Deuce. This is like Persian-inspired sapphic fantasy. What more do you want? And then I read Echo North by Joanna Ruth Mayer. Yeah, and sadly don't have a copy of that one. I really want one, but it was great. And after that, I read The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. This was fucking fantastic. Please read this book. And after that, I needed me some more vampires. So I read Dracul by Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker. This is like sort of a prequel to Dracula, and let me tell you, Dracula is shit. I don't care what anyone tells me, that book is so boring. But this is everything I wanted Dracula to be. Such a good vampire story. And then I read more vampire stuff. I read The Damned by Renee Ahdieh, and this is the sequel to The Beautiful. Also really much enjoyed this, and I cannot wait for the last one. Then I read A Dangerous Alliance by Janicki Cohen. This is like a Jane Austen inspired romance, so it was pretty cute. And then we got Ghosts of the Shadow Market, all by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, Kelly Link, and Robin Wasserman. Fucking 5 out of 5. Cassandra Clare, mwah. Then I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. Again, amazing romance. Cannot wait for her next book. I'm so excited. And then more Shadowhunters. I read The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. Then I read The Shadow Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. Not a big fan of this one. Very mediocre, I'm afraid. And then I read No One is Too Small to Make a Difference by Greta Thunberg. I needed to read the title off of my laptop for this one because too long, my poor brain cannot remember it. Then I read The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. Not bad at all. Then My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Atessa Moshfegh. Very weird book. And then I decided to dive into Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Unfortunately, kind of an underwhelming one for me personally. And then I read Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. Nope. After that, I read Eightfold Fall by Sarah Harrion. This is like a horror kind of fantasy book. Also underrated. I think this deserves a bit more hype than it has. I don't think it has any, so it deserves some hype. And after that, I needed a bit more horror stuff. So I listened to I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. Not as scared as I hoped I would be, to be honest. I guess it's harder to scare me than I thought. And after that, I read a fantastic book. I read Ghosts by Dolly Alderton. Oh my god, so good. Please read this. Amazing. If you like contemporary, read this. After that, I read The Mermaid's Voice Returns, and this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is the last in this specific poetry collection and also my favorite. Then I read American Royals by Catherine McGee, which I have since gotten rid of because And then some more poetry. I read Great Goddesses, Life Lessons from Myths and Monsters by Nikita Gill. This is really cool if you are into mythology. Then I listened to The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. This was not as good as I wanted it to be, but also not absolutely horrible. And then I read What Would Boudica Do? Everyday Problems Solved by History's Most Remarkable Women by E. Fowley and B. Coates. And then I read a book that every single person on the planet has to read, and it's a must. It is a necessity. And the book that I'm talking about is Invisible Women: Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. And after that, I finally decided to finish the whole Maze Runner series, and so I read The Fever Code by James Dashner. Finally finished this. I was surprised that I remembered most of the stuff that happened because my brain is a goldfish brain. I remember nothing. Then I read another nonfiction that was haunting me forever, and so I finally finished it, and that is Attack of the 50-Foot Women: How Gender Equality Can Save the World by Catherine Mayer. Again, very informative, very similar to Invisible Women as well, but a bit more personal and a bit less data, if that makes any sense, and also more political as well. And then I read American Royals Majesty by Catherine McGee, and this is the conclusion to American Royals, which I found slightly better than the first. And then I decided I needed some more Sarah J. Maas in my life, and so I finally picked up Air of Fire. Very slow, but satisfying, and also I met Rowan. Very grateful for that. And then I read The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf, which I found quite eye-opening. And then Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I loved way more than I expected to. Very pleasant surprise. And then I listened to Star Daughter by Shweta Thakrar. This was not bad, but major disappointment, unfortunately. And we are down to the last 3 books. After that, I read The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu, another major disappointment. The second to last book that I finished in the year of 2020 is The Vegetarian by Han Kang. This is, hands down, the weirdest book I've ever read in my life. And I don't see how anything else can top this, to be honest. And I seemed to have left the best for last, and so the last book I read in 2020, the 71st book, is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. Absolutely love this. I think everyone loves this, and I think I don't need to say anything else. So those were all of the 71 books I read in 2020. I hope I didn't forget any of them, because that would be tragic. And now on to a little bit of the Goodreads stats. So all of the 71 books amount to 23,534 pages. And I'd say this is like an estimate because obviously the editions that Goodreads has on are different from the editions that I have, and like page numbers differ from edition to edition sometimes, so this is just a good estimate. So according to Goodreads, the shortest book that I read is The Beauty Myth, but I'd say I disagree. It says that this is like 110 pages, but I think that either one of these would be the shortest one, and I don't know why I didn't count it. Maybe because Goodreads doesn't have like a page number for these ones because they were locally published, and you know, probably less than 10 people have read these, but oh well. And the longest book I read in 2020, which is kind of cheating, is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. My average book length is 331 pages, which sounds about right. Like, I do read in between like 300 and 400 pages long books on average. The most popular book I read is, of course, Frankenstein, and the least popular is Hypocrisy by Imogen Sterling, which is no surprise to me. But what I do find surprising is the fact that my average rating was 3.8, and considering how I feel like most of the books I read were just okay, like they were good, they were okay, I would have expected this to be lower for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's all the graphic novels that I gave 5 stars to. And out of all the books that I read, the highest rated one on Goodreads is Saga Volume 9, and it definitely deserves it. And that was it for the whole Goodreads stats section. And now onto like 2021 resolutions. I genuinely don't have that many. Like, my number one goal for 2021 is to read as many books as I humanly can from my physical TBR. Like, my physical TBR is gigantic, and I want to tackle it as much as possible, and I've also cut down severely on my book buying, and I will keep my book buying to an absolute minimum because I want to lessen my physical TBR and just have as little unread books on my shelves as possible. So that, I would say, is like my main goal. And hand in hand with that goal is the fact that I want to read as many series as possible. Like, I have a lot of unread series on my shelves, and due to my shit memory, I like to hoard the series. So I would get the first book and I would wait until the last book in the series, or at least the second to last book in the series, is out or almost out, to even start the series. And due to that, I have a lot of series on my shelves that I didn't even start, and I want to change that because for a lot of them, the last book is coming out this year, and so I want to read as many of them as humanly possible. And so reading series and sequels is my other main priority in 2021. And I think besides these two, one goal that I do have in mind is to just read more diversely and just like be aware of what I read, and like be aware about the authors that I choose to support. The way I pick up a book is like, I don't even care about the author. Like, if the story interests me, then yes, but I just want to make a more conscious decision when I'm buying books and when I'm reading books, and I want to read more diversely, purposefully. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, I want to pay attention to the author a bit more and not just read cishet white authors for the most part. Like, I want to read from more diverse authors. I want to read from like queer authors and indigenous authors and black authors and just anything that is not cishet and white, you know, like just diversify my reads. And I think that is it for my goals. Like, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself because I'm in the last year of university and I have my final year project, and this also means that I will not be making as many videos in the near future. Possibly I will try, but like no promises, because I do want to focus on my project, and filming, editing, and uploading does unfortunately take a good amount from my time, and so I have to prioritize university first, even though I'm not a big fan of it at the moment. So I think that is it for this video. I don't think I have anything else to say, but what I do have is this giant pile of books that I need to clean and put back, and that's gonna be fun. But I do hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you with a new video hopefully soon.